Death is only the beginning when you're listening to America's sandiest podcast, The Pod People. I'm Matisse Fenrossum, and I got a big fat American head sitting on a thick, strong American neck.
I'm the strongest neck this side of the Nile, Ben Sheets.
Oh baby, I hear the Santa calling, toss salads and sparrow eggs.
They're calling again. See, I thought you were gonna make it 3 for 3 and do a neck joke.
But no, see, I did that joke because of Brandon Fraser.
It's pronounced Fraser. Everyone always gets it wrong. Mm-hmm. Justice for Brendan Fraser.
Justice.
Y'all remember
and scrambled eggs.
The 2-week period a few years back when that wide neck dude was like an internet phenomenon?
I think so. Well, which wide neck dude?
Well, you had like the daddy long neck guy, and then you had the really wide neck guy.
The dude with the neck that was like wider than his head.
Yeah. I remember.
Or dude, I feel like.
What about?
I feel like every couple of years.
What happened to it?
What happened?
I feel like every couple of years the internet becomes fascinated by a gentleman with an extremely wide neck.
Yeah.
And, in fairness, pretty fascinating.
It is fascinating what a good, thick neck can do.
Speaking of fascinating necks, let's talk about The Mummy.
Let's talk about The Mummy.
This was your pick.
Yes,
God
Cleveland.
Damn.
You're taking us back to our childhood.
1999.
And, yeah, second week in a row that we're doing a film from 1999. This movie came out the same year as Existence, believe it or not.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
Nailed it. Not intentional.
We're talking about Stephen Sommers' remake of the Universal classic, The Mummy, starring Brendan Fraser, Rachel Weisz, and a handful of great character actors, and some very dated CG.
I gotta tell you, dated CG aside, they remade a classic into another classic.
Yeah, this is a fun movie.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I'm sure you both grew up with this movie, watching it a ton.
Yes.
I actually didn't watch this movie for the first time until college. My mom was kind of scared of horror movies growing up, so we didn't watch a ton of horror movies. And this was very much an adventure movie, first and foremost. But I don't have the sort of, nostalgia for this movie that you guys do.
Which is fair.
At the same time, I do find it very fun and charming. It feels like a spin on the Indiana Jones type of movie.
Absolutely.
Those 30s serialized adventure kind of stories.
A swashbuckling good time.
This is one of those movies that I just wore the VHS tape out of as a kid.
I'm pretty sure...
rewind it, and play it again.
I'm pretty sure I saw this movie for the first time on VHS at your house when we were about 6 or 7, 8 years old. I remember owning the sequel, The Mummy Returns, on VHS, and I watched that one a lot. I don't remember why I had that one, but not this one. So that one is more sort of ingrained in my memory than this one is. But I did revisit this a couple of years ago, and was pleasantly surprised with how well it's held up overall.
Well, I can say I had not. I watched it over and over and over again as a kid. I loved this movie, but all the way up through my teens and college years, and well into my career now, I never came back to it. I always wanted to kind of save on it, and also I was a little worried it wouldn't have held up. And frankly, still great, still charming. It's a delightful movie.
Yeah. We talk about it a lot, but this is another one of those movies that feels like it's from a truly bygone era of Hollywood.
Yes.
Really
some of the last.
Yeah, really. I mean, I was really feeling on my boomer shit when we were watching this, being like, God damn it, we used to be a real country and make real movies.
Honestly, though.
I mean, in the U.S. at least.
Yes,
elements of it kind of reminded me, oddly enough, of movies like Triple R.
Yeah.
where you have big set pieces that are very spectacle heavy and exuberant.
Well,
and
yeah,
they feel tangible.
I mean, I feel like this sort of style of filmmaking is coming back around because we've finally reached the sort of like natural endpoint of like the MCU sort of school of filmmaking. All of these sort of, you know, brown, charmless CG slop fests without a practical set in sight. And this movie's CG has not held up very well in most of its uses. But, thankfully, a lot of actual sets, a lot of
loads of
practical effects, some fun makeup and costumes and props, and by God, it feels like a real movie.
And I will say
with movie stars in it too.
Yeah. The saving grace of a lot of the CG effects not aging really well is the tone of this movie.
Yes.
It is a fun, you know, cartoonish, you know, very over the top sort
it's
of
very
romp.
lighthearted, yeah. I mean, you mentioned in Indiana Jones, and it's very much in that same sort of camp.
Temple of Doom in particular.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. Very quippy, very lighthearted, very swashbuckling.
But still sincere.
But still, yeah, totally.
Not self-serious, but sincere.
No, totally sincere, yeah.
And it works so well for it. Like, it does like a really good job of maintaining that balance of sincerity and slapstick. Like, there's a bunch of sequences in this film that are just outright Looney Tunes.
Yeah,
and it's great.
Well, that's just how adventure, you know, movies used to be. You know,
yeah.
And yeah, a lot of that stuff holds up really well. I think it's a very fun, not like super serious movie. You know, with some. I'll call them decent horror elements. Maybe not necessarily very effective horror elements because they rely pretty heavily on some very, very smooth CG.
Yeah, when I was a kid, though...
It was 1999.
Yeah. Well, honestly, like, even as a kid for me, there were a couple of sequences that gave me the
There's some stuff in this that scared me as a kid, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
But, like, most of the stuff where he's, like, half-formed as a mummy... You know, and it's like mostly the actual actor, and then there's like the CG gross, nasty mouth that opens up and stuff. Like, even as a kid, I just thought that was cool and fun. And I think that's sort of why it worked. This movie was pretty successful. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but like it's still pretty well beloved and talked about. And not only just as like a cult horror movie, but as a family film. Like, I would watch this with my dad, you know, and my mom and my sister, and like we all like enjoyed this movie together. And I think that's a really tricky balance to hit. And it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, like working on a Creepshow title. Creepshow's very similar in that respect. You know, like it's hokey and it's fun, it's sincere and charming, and it's I feel like everyone can enjoy. It's horror it's horror for everybody, and I appreciate that a lot, frankly. Especially, like, just from, like, from a kid's perspective, you know, watching that film. It gave you tools, you know, to work with scary shit, and I think that's good.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is, you know, this is a Universal picture, so they're always, you know, shooting for broad appeal. Obviously, this was pretty successful, got a, you know, large budget sequel, and then another sequel that we don't need to talk about. We don't need to talk about Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
No, I saw that one in the theaters.
But
I don't care to revisit that one.
Also did get a... I don't know if... I can't imagine that it's still there, but for a long time it did have... they had a ride at Universal Studios. The Mummy ride.
Did you?
I did too, yeah.
Did you, Ben?
Yeah.
I've done it at Universal California and Universal Orlando.
Hey,
but again, I can't imagine that ride is still part of the Universal Studios rotation. I haven't been to Universal since I was like probably 13, 14 years old. But...
A couple years ago, they finally got rid of the Jaws ride, which broke my heart hearing because I think
what they got rid of rid of the Jaws on the tram ride.
There's no more.
The backlot tram ride, really?
Yeah, the one on the boat where you go through the warehouse and the explosions and everything. Yeah, no, just not there anymore.
crazy.
Yeah, no, frankly, yeah, because I think it's
That's
one
insane.
of the best rides I'd ever been on.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I know I'm a pretty avid listener and watcher of Defunctland, which is a YouTube series about like the rides, that aren't necessarily around anymore. And he documents like the history of them, and I find it earnestly fascinating and fun. Yeah. Let's actually see Mummy ride.
That'd be crazy if the Mummy is still that ride is still there, but they got rid of the Jaws part of the trolley ride. How are you going to keep the Mummy but not Jaws?
Okay, I just got an article up here that says beloved Universal Studios ride reopens after year-long shutdown.
Which one?
Revenge of the Mummy.
Wow. Well, I stand corrected.
Yeah,
if you go to
so
Universal Studios, you can still get on the Mummy ride.
Recently reopened in the fall of 2022. So
when the scarab beetles come for you, they spritz water in your face.
Well, yeah, they drop it from overhead too. Like droplets of water hit you on the back.
Yeah,
it feels like the scarabs are landing on you. And the fire effects are pretty close. You can really feel the heat of it too. And they do the camera. They catch they get your photo like right at the dip.
Oh yeah,
of the roller coaster.
Just like
so you look like a moron.
The Jurassic Park one too, where they drop you down under the T-Rex.
Yeah, man.
Oh man, bygone era.
Hey, but not me, entirely. It's still
weird. I more mean of me being on roller coasters. I don't like roller coasters.
I love them. I still love them.
Anyway, let's talk about The Mummy, the movie that we just watched.
Where do we want to start? Do we want to start with the plot? Do we want to start with the actors?
Well, yeah, we can do broad plot overview. Sure. This is a remake of, the 30s Boris Karloff Mummy, but this one, sort of expands that story and turns it into more of a spectacle, whereas the original 30s one is sort of confined to like the museum, and it's sort of a more like, small scale kind of claustrophobic sort of deal. This one is big and epic. Starts with, a prologue of however many thousands of years in the past when the Pharaoh's high priest Imhotep was fucking around with the Pharaoh's wife and
Anaxamamun.
Oh yes, Anaxamamun.
I'll never forget that name.
How could you? They say it 1,000,000 times in this movie and the second one. But yeah, he was fucking around with Anaxamamun and got his ass cursed for all eternity to be a mummy. But for some reason, the curse gives him superpowers, which seems like an oversight. Why they do that?
It gives him superpowers. It essentially makes him like an Antichrist figure.
They like
the end of the world demon.
They're like, okay, the crime was so bad. We're gonna inflict him with the most heinous curse that we know of, where he's gonna be condemned to be alive and undead in his sarcophagus forever. But if anybody ever wakes him up, then he's gonna be able to have all of the power to destroy the world. Again,
turn into sand.
Again, why they do that seems like asking for trouble to me.
But it's the next generation's problem, though.
I mean, really, many generations down the line, thousands of years, until we get to the 1920s, when Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz and a whole cast of kooky characters uncover the city of the dead and accidentally wake up the mummy and bring about curses and plagues on Egypt.
Yeah, well, you mentioned cast of characters, and that's a really apt way of putting it, because it's very, character heavy in a very fun way.
Mm-hmm.
I think Brendan Fraser is the obvious pull here. He's kind of the star of the movie, and he does a great job.
I will say, I think, especially on this watch, I think that Brendan Fraser is maybe the most anachronistic character out of everybody. He's great. He's a great sort of Indiana Jones figure, you know, sort of like wry, wisecracking, you know, hero. But he does have this sort of like 90s California surfer dude sort of affect that just does not just does not seem like 1920s like at all. But
something kind of fun about
see,
that.
he's a great lead, and he's
charming.
got great chemistry with Rachel Weisz, who I think she's really the standout of this film. She's so good, and just absolutely knockout, smoking hot,
gorgeous.
I actually really appreciate the choice to not make Brendan Fraser's character like super period accurate, because like it's something that kind of grounds it to like contemporary audiences.
I agree.
Yeah, well, I mean, also just like the general quippiness is very, you know, like 90s too. And yeah, I mean, it's fun, and it's fun and fine. I do like Brendan Fraser in this movie a lot. He's got great charisma. He's got great energy. And yeah, he does sort of ground the whole thing in a really nice way.
My other favorite minor character is Benny.
Oh, yes.
Played by Kevin O'Connor, who's great character actor. He was in There Will Be Blood as Henry.
He's great in that.
Yeah. But he plays this sort of...
Get him liquored up and take him to the Peachtree Dance.
But in this movie...
I said get him liquored up and take him to the Peachtree Dance.
In this movie, he plays sort of a two-timing...
He's
roguish character.
He's the sniveling henchman character.
Yeah.
He becomes Imhotep's Igor or his Renfield. You know, he's the nasty, weaselly, cowardly little freak who aligns himself with the big bad supernatural monster out of his own self-interest first and foremost.
Yeah, and he has such a weaselly look in this movie. It's great. Yeah,
they give him like
his little John Waters mustache.
John Waters mustache, eyeshadow, like it's great. The choice for him to be Hungarian also.
Yeah, I thought that was something that I never picked up on as a kid.
I don't know if I would have as an adult if it wasn't for like the
multiple
closed
times.
captions where it says swearing in Hungarian.
In the closed captioning, that's because they never really mention it otherwise. I wonder if that's it's been a long time since I've seen the Boris Karloff Mummy. I'm wondering if that's a character from that movie as well, because I know there are some like direct carryovers.
Also a movie I haven't seen since I was a kid.
It's great. It's really good. I haven't seen it in a long time. It's probably my second favorite old Universal monster movie after The Invisible Man.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Bela Lugosi's Dracula for me is going to be pretty high up there.
It's a good one. It's a good one for sure.
It's just so lively. Yeah, but no, there's so many great characters and character actors, and someone who stuck out to me was definitely like I think it's Oded Fehr, like
Oded Fehr, yeah, the Magi guy.
Yeah, the Magi. Like he's just so cool in this movie. Like all of his lines are just delivered with like just the right amount of gravel. He's got his eyes kind of half squinted and he's staring off into the sunset. You know, like.
Between him and Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz and the actress who plays Anoxina Moon, like this movie is just full of like absurdly good-looking people.
Oh yeah. Dude.
It's just ridiculous,
outrageous. Should be illegal.
I feel like this movie had to be responsible for just like many a sexual awakening of people of our generation.
My hand's going right up. Like, dude, the opening bit with like Patricia Velasquez, like as Anoxina Moon. Yeah, no doubt that awoken some shit in me. It was crazy coming back to it, being like, "Oh yeah, that."
She's got a way bigger role in the second one too.
Absolutely deserved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like her charisma. Though she's only on screen for so long.
Her charisma.
Oh come on.
You like her.
I like her. Both. I like her actual charisma. And
you
also,
like her assets.
Yes. Yes. She's a nice lady. No, it's a great movie. I really like the start. I like. There's a couple of sequences in the film where they go to where people get killed off screen, but it's always very rewarding because there's like shadows cast on the walls of them being stabbed or ripped apart, or wonderful cutaway shots.
Because of course this movie is only PG-13.
Yes, and fine for it, in my opinion. There's bits where guys like get the life and all the organs sucked out of them, and you hear
flash mummified.
Yeah, and you always hear it. And usually see other characters' reactions, like the one where they're out on the street and he sucks the one guy dry, and it cuts to just like a really nice close up of like Kevin O'Connor's face, and he's just mortified by the whole thing.
Yeah, when he kills Jonathan Hyde, who's another great little character actor.
And I know we're cutting very, very far ahead, but what I really like about that sequence in particular is I was thinking like, oh, that is another off-screen death, but as soon as that thought is registering, we're cutting back to like the main cast like in a car chase and their car like exploding against a fountain. Like it's just constant action, constant energy, and constant stunts, real stunts and real practicals.
Yeah.
So much real stuff is in this movie.
I love it when
in addition with all the CG quote enhancement.
Drive the car through the whole crowd, the whole mob
just so many stuntmen
of dudes just like flying all over the place and like clinging to the car, and they're like punching them off the car and stuff. It's great. So much fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this movie puts set pieces first.
Yes.
And in the forefront so much.
As is the universal way.
Honestly, it works. Like, I think some of the set pieces, like, are kind of superfluous at times.
Totally.
Like, I think of the whole World War I general guy who shows up to...
Oh, the British guy who they need to... fly the plane.
Yeah, so they fly the plane and then just immediately abandon that after the set piece is over. And it's like, that's so unnecessary, but it's fun.
It's like, they need to use a plane. But in fairness, though, like it is ultimately just sort of like a plot device to get them back to the City of the Dead at the end. But they do set that up nicely early on when Brendan Fraser runs into him in the bar and he's like drunk and he like walks through the fountain. He's like, I think someone spilled their drink, and he's just sort of talking about how like. After the Great War, he was just sort of left behind in Egypt to, like, man the British Royal, like, air base, but he has nothing to do. So all he does is, like, just sit around with his planes and get drunk. So when they go to him at the end and we're like, hey, we need you to fly us to, this magical City of the Dead, he's not really interested until they tell him that he probably won't survive. And he's like, oh, word?
Yo, sign me up.
He's like, oh, okay. He's like, finally, something, with stakes, something dangerous. And sure enough, when they land the plane, he just immediately dies. And the plane gets sucked down into quicksand. It's so funny. As soon as they're done with that, it's
Army, like British Imperial music starts playing as he sinks.
Yeah, they salute him as the plane is going.
All three of us saluted, too, like, while watching it. It's so fucking funny. And, like, it's great. Like, he wanted to die a hero's death, like his little Bushido code. Like, it's what he wanted. It's great. It's very funny.
His little code of honor.
Yeah. And I thought that was very cute. Man.
But I agree with you. Yeah, it's like this is a set piece heavy film, absolutely to its benefit, because the writing and the story is like all like C tier, like low.
It's like bad Indiana Jones knockoff.
Yeah, like the characters are fun, but like, man, if this movie was more like standing around and talking and like poring over books and maps, like already the little bit of that stuff that's in this movie is by far the least interesting shit. If it was more of that, I think this movie would be much more of a drag.
I don't know if I would say that it's like entirely C tier, just because I think that it's pretty well done with that intent in mind. I mean,
it knows what it is. It's very utilitarian.
Yeah, but like, I think all of the the one-liners that are written in, and like the sight gags that are sort of worked and threaded into like the sequencing itself, right? Like
Oh,
in
yeah,
the writing
sure.
is really good, which is a huge part of writing. Like is actually like setting up all of the events to play out as they should.
I mean,
the reward, it's so rewarding, like in that.
It clips along for sure, but I mean it is
Like, I think in like only the way that like a writer director can do it. And I know like what's his name?
Steven Sommer.
Steven Sommer directed as well as like was part of the writing team on this film. I think that's in this case the way to do it.
Yeah. He also wrote and directed your favorite movie, Van Helsing, from 2004. Same.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Same director.
We are gonna have to hit that one up at some point.
At some point, I'm sure we will.
Ben, you've got a pick coming up.
I'm sure you'll toss a pick. Toss one of your picks away on that one.
Oh, I don't know if I'm tossing it away. It's another one I do want to revisit from my childhood at some point.
That's one that I have much less nostalgia about than
yeah.
this one. I did see that one in theaters with my dad and my uncle, and I think that's the only time I've seen it. So,
I think an apt comparison going into like what you were talking about, Tease, is like a more recent movie, Jungle Cruise, which was a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson vehicle. Sort of Disney adventure movie.
Did you see that one?
I did.
I did not see that.
Well, here's the thing. Like, the problem is it similarly is like B, C tier, like Indiana Jones knockoff. And the set pieces are a lot of fun. However, there's a lot of talking. There's a lot of exposition. And that's the big problem with it. I
feel like they reverse engineered that one in a weird way where they based a movie off of a ride first rather than doing it the other way around and doing the ride based off a movie. I won't say that that's impossible to do because I think like the big notable example of them doing that right is the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, which I rewatched recently, having been playing a lot of Sea of Thieves, very pirate-brained. That first one holds up really well, I must say. You get diminishing returns pretty quickly after that, but that first one holds up remarkably well.
I love Davy Jones's design in the second.
So cool. The best part of the movie, that's the second one though, is when Jack Sparrow really starts to become an annoying fucking character. I was surprised rewatching the first one that like he's like surprisingly fun and charming in the first one, and then the second one it's like, oh, this guy sucks, dude. He sucks so bad.
Yeah, they turn him into a minion.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, the first one was so successful and that character became so instantly beloved that they learned. The second one is like a great example of them learning all of the wrong lessons of like what made the first one great.
Yeah, they lean in too hard. They lean until they fall over.
It's too jokey. Yeah, they What was that?
That was her burping.
Oh. I don't think that picked up on mic, but Piglet just made a fun noise.
Piglet just burped. It was really good. Yeah, good job.
Piglet, what do you have to say? What do you have to say about the allegations? Yeah. Where were we? What were we talking about? The Mummy, Pirates of the Caribbean, movies.
Movies, man.
I think
movies based off of rides.
Is kind of a similar movie to The Mummy in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
They're both,
It's better though. Sorry.
One of the last greats.
I would agree. They're both super spectacle heavy.
Yes.
I think Zemeckis, right? Zemeckis directed.
No, Gore Verbinski.
Gore Verbinski.
Yeah.
Gore Verbinski is a better director than Steven Sommers.
Correct. Yes, he is.
I would say
the big difference.
Golden apples and golden oranges.
Yeah.
Except I will say that from what I've seen, the CG in Pirates of the Caribbean does at least
holds up much better.
So there's
much better
for sure.
Very similar CG effects too. Skeleton people, lots of skeleton pirates, mummies. Tomato.
One
tomato
thing
to mummy
that Pirates of the
go.
Caribbean has that this movie I feel like doesn't quite have in the same way is like a great theme song, a great set of orchestral soundtrack backing it. I feel like this movie, while the score and the music is serviceable,
I would say that it
I love the
definitely.
music.
it's not as good as the Pirates of the Caribbean.
It's not
Pirates
as
of the Caribbean.
memorable.
What? Jeez.
The Pirates of the Caribbean.
The Pirates
score.
of the Caribbean?
The Pirates of the Bean.
Got that one on tape.
The Pirates of the Bean score.
The Pirates.
It's not as iconic, but I mean, at least like having watched it a lot as a child, like the motifs and the themes in the score in this one, like, do stick with you. I do remember there are some memorable bits in the score.
That's fair.
It's not as you're right though. It's not as iconic as the Pirates.
Maybe it's just the nostalgia for you guys.
Very
but,
possible.
You know, I found the music in the serviceable and good and fine, but like there wasn't anything to like hook me in and say, "Oh wow, holy shit!"
You know what I really liked about it is it was just a clean.
You know who did the score on this though? Jerry Goldsmith.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. It's Jerry Goldsmith fashion too. I think it is a clean, classic, fully orchestrated score.
Big Hollywood adventure movie.
Big adventure movie, and I think that's what it should be. I wouldn't want much more enhancement or anything like outstanding or outrageous for it. Like it's an adventure movie. It's a classic adventure movie. Like I don't think they should have tried to step outside of any bounds. I think it's quite great for that. I love Jerry Goldsmith too. He also did the Shadow soundtrack, which I was revisiting recently.
I mean, Jerry Goldsmith is obviously one of the most like legendary Hollywood composers of all time. He's done so many. I was just out of curiosity who did the Pirates of the Caribbean score. It's Klaus Badelt, who, like, I don't recognize the name, but looking at some of the films he scored, Pirates of the Caribbean is obviously the most famous one. I think he really fucking knocked it out of the park with that. He has got himself a hit on that one. But he also did do the score for, like, Gladiator, Constantine, and, most recently, The Devil Conspiracy.
No.
Y'all remember that came out last year?
Yeah.
No, it came out this year.
I forget.
Did it?
It was showing in our theater in AMC earlier
that's
this
right.
year.
Have you guys seen it?
No.
I've seen it.
Oh, you saw that?
I saw it.
How is it?
Well,
Yeah, that sounds about right. Actually, that's pretty much what I was expecting. That's why I haven't prioritized.
in the trailer, there's like this awesome demon in a suit, and it's only in like one scene. There's a bunch of other stuff though. I will say, because it's actually trying to be like a Christian movie. It's got some moves, man. It's got some weird choices. Like, no, I think it's fun. You know, it reminded me a little bit, or a lot bit actually, of what was the one with Gabriel and all that shit in the 2000s?
Legion.
It reminded me of Legion a lot, and I
saw that movie in theaters too.
It's, a little bit Legion, a little bit. What's the Christopher Walken one? The
Prophecy?
Prophecy, yeah.
Is that what that was called?
Yeah, a little bit that.
We talked about that movie was wild.
That movie's wild, yeah. Like it's
the one where Viggo Mortensen plays Lucifer. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, it's a little bit that. We're digressing hella hard, but it's fun. I really like the introduction of Rachel Weisz's character of Evelyn. In the library, she's up on one of those library ladders in a big place.
The classic library ladder.
She has a book, and it's labeled wrong, and so she's going to put it on the other shelf. And she tries to lean and put it on the shelf across from her, and then she ends up upright on the ladder in between the two places, balancing on the ladder. And I think it's a really cute stunt. You know, we get that shot from far away where it's probably a different actress, like
her
actually...
stunt double,
her stunt double, actually, on the ladder, and then she slips, and it creates a domino effect that knocks over every single shelf in the library in a circle.
Yeah.
And it's so over the top, and it does a great job of setting you up for the tone of the rest of this film.
Yeah, totally.
That's something that this movie nails that I do think is kind of a dying art, is the visual gag. The art of the visual gag is so prevalent in this movie. There's so many good sight gags where, like, I feel like adventure movies nowadays, or bigger movies, don't lean on them enough.
So much of it requires coordination between so many different departments, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's, like, obviously, like, I touched on this a moment ago earlier, but, like, you know, you need writing, you also need the producers, you need the directors, you need, like, everyone involved in that process for that to, like, line up with those beats in the script. So, like, especially, too, when they're that expensive, I mean, that one gag, like, is...
I mean, that gag, sure, is maybe an extreme example, but I think Ben's right that, like, just sort of having Looney Tunes ass shit in these sort of, like, lighthearted adventure movies is just, like, not as much of a thing anymore. Like, and they don't
partially because it requires that work.
Well, but, I mean, it doesn't... It can, but it doesn't have to, sure. Right? Like, there are so many in this movie, in addition to that sort of, like, bigger gag of, like, knocking over all the bookshelves in the library, but there's so many fun, like, small ones. Like, in the... Sure. One of my favorite, like, set pieces... Yeah. One of my favorite set pieces was when the Magi attack the riverboat and set that on fire. Like, there's just so many, like, great little bits in that. But the part that made me laugh the hardest of anything in this movie is when, like, the one guy with, like, the hook hand is, like, menacing Rachel Weisz in her room, and, like, the ship has already been set on fire, and John Hannah, who plays her brother, comes, like, stumbling down the hall and, like, bumbles into her room and bumps into the hook-handed guy from behind, and he flips over Rachel Weisz into the burning couch and just catches on fire. And, like, that is so fucking funny. Later, when they're in the tomb, when the prison warden, like, gets the scarab beetle, like, in his arm, and he's, like, running around, he dies by running headfirst into a wall, like Wile E. Coyote. Like,
yeah, but it's, like, it's really fun, because, like, he dies like Wile E. Coyote, but the impetus for it is, like, there was a scarab beetle, like, devouring his mind.
It's crawling under his
yeah, well, it crawls all the way up into his brain, and starts and you hear it, like, starts chewing into his skull. So, like, he has this, like, beetle, like, boring into his brain, causing madness, and that's what makes him do a Wile E. Coyote. But and I love the tonal, like, you know, wacky, like, imbalance.
It plays
there.
up the total, you know, Indiana Jones type of thing. Oh, I'm scared of snakes. I hate snakes. You know, they introduce he hates bugs multiple times going into that. And then suddenly
he's
for bugs foisted upon
it's like, oh, I wonder. Yeah, it's like he says, I hate bugs, like 2 or 3 times. It's like, well, I wonder how he's gonna die, huh?
Greed and bugs.
The scarab beetle thing is something that I remember, like, thinking was so, like, creepy and cool as a kid, and I think that shit is just, like, so fucking cartoonish now. I mean, first of all, the effect looks terrible of, like, the beetle, like, crawling under their skin. They do it a couple of times in this one. It looks terrible, but also just, like, that they turned, for the purposes of this story, that they turned scarab beetles into, like, basically land piranhas, like, flesh-eating, like, little creatures, when in reality, like, scarab beetles, another name, the more common name for them is dung beetles. They don't eat flesh, they eat shit. They roll poop up into balls and push it around and eat that. And they're like, yeah, what if we took these little things and, like, what if they, like, could strip a man down to a skeleton in
awesome.
2 seconds flat.
And you know what?
You know, it's great. Yeah, well, yeah, it's great. That's how they do. That's what they do to Imhotep when they're putting him in his sarcophagus at the beginning, when they curse him, as they wrap him up and they wrap him up like a mummy, and they put him in the sarcophagus, and they just dump a big bucket of scarab beetles on him and seal him up in there.
And then they put him in a bigger box.
And they put him in a bigger box.
They lost that one, yeah. Yeah, I love how, like, his sarcophagus is double locked. Like, and it's got that cool lock mechanism on it, too. It's kind of like, I know, like, the tangible props are really good in this movie, too. Like, I love that the metal lock that is the the puzzle box that opens, you know, so you have to know like ancient Egyptian to open it.
Really,
so.
they should have put him in a third one too, and they probably should have not just left that key lying around that conveniently opens not only his sarcophagus but also the Book of the Dead, and then later also the Book of Amun-Ra. Is they just have like this one purpose little spinny key thing that they just kind of left lying around.
If they have him locked in one and then they lock him in a second box, it's like reinforced. You know, we get the point. He's not supposed to escape. But if you put him into like a third sarcophagus, you start to get like a Matryoshka doll kind of effect.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't really work.
Yeah, but each one they put him in, it makes it harder for him to get out. And if
Russian
he
nesting.
Yeah, but that's Russian. That's not Egyptian. We're getting our cultures mixed up. Like, you gotta, you know... Like...
The Egyptians probably did it first. They're a much older culture.
Well,
they did everything first.
Well, I'm rushing to finish this conversation and move on to the next point.
All right, well, then go on then. What do you want to talk about next?
Oh, man. I mean, we could... let's talk about how he's scared of cats.
Oh, yeah, the best part. They really should have...
Jump around.
They really should have just carried the cat around with them the whole time.
Yeah, man.
Because I guess, like, until he is able to fully regenerate himself by just sucking everybody, just
sucking them
dry
Yeah.
and
Getting all the seed.
getting more. He sucks them dry and gets a little more caked up every time.
God damn it.
But until he's fully caked up, then I guess
Power levels are mid-max.
yeah, and I guess at that point cats are still dangerous for him. They don't really say why. They're just kind of like cats are like
until he's at full power. Before he is at full power, cats will be too scary for him. But they do imply that at a certain point cats won't work anymore.
Well, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. But they don't really elaborate on like why cats have power over him at that point. There's a throwaway line that, like, the cats are the guardians of the spirit world or whatever, but like
they're garlic.
Both times he sees the cat just kind of hisses at him and he goes, and he gets so scared he turns into a tornado and flies out the window.
I love all like this.
It's like if he didn't turn into a tornado and fly out the window, what would the kitty cat do to him? That's all I'm asking.
Be scary. Take his soul because they guard the world.
Would it take? I would love to see
the cat suck his
the
soul
cat
out.
suck Imhotep's soul out.
Soul, yeah. Like I think I'm a big.
You weirdly emphasize soul there.
No, I think it's important.
Get your fucking mind out of the gutter, you degenerate.
Moving on. The the cats. Yeah, I think that yeah, they were very fluffy and adorable, but no, they function as garlic to a vampire.
Yeah.
They're a ward, and I think that's fun. That it's a fun lore tidbit. They don't hang on it for very long, and we learn it organically in a scene, which is good. That's how you want to do it.
Honestly, this movie, and it's been so long since I've seen the Karloff one that I can't remember if it's the case there, but this movie really does just like pretty beat for beat like follow the Dracula story. Like the Mummy is really just like Egyptian Dracula.
100%.
Yeah.
Because like he's got like you're talking about like he's got a garlic thing, but also like
He's searching for a bride.
He sees a woman who like reminds him of his lost love, who he becomes obsessed with kidnapping.
They both exsanguinate people.
He has to suck people dry in order to achieve full power. You know, it's just he's got a weird little sycophantic minion. He's just he's just Sandy Dracula is what he is. The Mummy is just Sandy Dracula.
Yeah.
I will say, it's something that, you know, I think was just sort of part of the territory in 1999, but in sort of through a more contemporary lens, this movie does seem to be completely allergic to like casting actual Egyptians or Arabic people as
Yeah.
I mean, it would be charitable to call some of the moves with that stuff questionable.
Yeah.
I would say it's kind of racist, this movie.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
Generally.
absolutely. Well, I mean, okay, so it's like they go like so far out of their way to like not cast any actual like Arabic people as Egyptians. It's like fucking what's her name? Patricia Vasquez or what? Velasquez or whatever, who plays Nox on the Moon.
Velasquez. Yeah.
The guy who plays Imhotep is a fucking Afrikaner.
Yes.
Even Oder Fed, who plays the Magi guy, he's Israeli. It's like they just won't like. They just won't cast any actual Middle Easterners or Africans in this movie.
And then Eric Avari, who plays the other scholar, is Indian American.
Yeah. See,
Oh my god.
it's like they'll get close. It's like, oh, we'll get a fucking South African dude, or we'll get an Israeli.
Like, Patricia Velasquez is Venezuelan.
Right,
so.
Exactly, yeah. It's 1999. They can't make any of the main characters too brown, otherwise the movie won't be marketable. So you've got to go for racially ambiguous, right?
Yep. Well, I mean, we gotta keep in mind, like, this is...
That said, these are all like good, competent actors. You know, they do fine. It's not their fault that they were
Well, we gotta keep in mind, too, that this is the same era as, like, the 13th Warrior.
Sure, yeah.
Where, oh hell, what's this name?
Again, like I said, like this was just like the territory of big Hollywood in 1999. But like I said, through a contemporary lens, it bears mentioning. I think.
Who voiced Puss in Boots? What's his name?
Antonio Banderas.
Yeah, Banderas plays a Middle Eastern guy.
Yeah.
Like in 13th Warrior, who goes to live with the Vikings. So it's, you know.
Yep.
It's that era. It was the 90s.
It sure
I am
was.
in no way justifying that when I say that, but yeah. So, all right, we touched on that. I think that was
yeah, we did our due diligence.
Yep, we did our due diligence. There's some other funny bits. I like when they're surrounded by like the cult that's trying to protect the tomb. Brendan Fraser. Fraser. Love him. I should know his name. But he has he just reaches back for any weapon because he's out of ammo, and he pulls something out and it whips across the fire when he does, and he looks down at his hand and it's a stick of dynamite. And again, it's just so Looney Tunes, and
it works too. It works. They're like, all right, we'll leave. We're not gonna kill anybody else, but you've got till tomorrow to get out of here, or else. It's just like the whole time he's just got like this stick of dynamite with like the log fuse burning down. It's like, I don't know why that got them to stop their, like, entire attack. Like, they could just all back up, you know?
My impression actually wasn't there was a stick of dynamite. It was just, like, the desperation, and they were like, okay, we've killed enough guys. We're noble. We're not trying to kill everyone. This isn't supposed to be a slaughter. Our message was made.
Sure.
Like, I thought like that was the idea. Is that they're still
they can't make them be too brutal because they have to have to make the one guy he joins the team later, you know.
Exactly. Like, he can't be like entirely villainous. And also like it's kind of in theme with like Lawrence of Arabia and other stuff like that as well.
Yeah.
Where the whole like, you know, killing everyone is bad. It's a big lesson in that movie. Big theme.
But killing just a few people. Okay, and good actually.
Oh wow, yeah, pretty cool.
They basically say so much when they're saying, you know, it's okay to kill a few people.
That's right. Yeah. They do straight up say that later. They're like, because Rachel Weisz is like,
murders a few.
Yeah. Well, she's like, so you think it's justifiable to kill innocent people in like the pursuit of killing this creature, and they're like, yes we do.
Yes we do.
Because it's like
we love blood.
We love blood. Well, it's they're like it's the he'll bring about the end of the world if we don't, right? Like it's the trolley problem.
They're justified.
It's worth killing a few to save the entire planet.
Yeah, and I love that. This is like that's good meta commentary. That's not the fucking.
Is it?
Yeah, it's cute. It's cute. It's fun. And it's harmless, and it's not looking at the camera and saying, "Well, that just happened," which is bad.
I mean, I would say this movie has a number of 1999's version of "Well, that just happened."
Yeah, but the 90s versions were better, I think.
Yeah, well, and also just like again, in a real movie,
yeah,
it's it's easier to look past like the stupid, hokey, anachronistic quips.
I mean, I used to I'm probably the wrong judge because again, I would just walk around the house saying all the quips as a kid. I'm mad brainwashed.
Yeah.
So I love that. Like, fuck's sake, Galaxy Quest. That's another
Great
one
movie.
from my childhood.
Great movie.
Banger.
Unabashedly quippy.
Oh, yeah.
That movie loaded down with quips.
Well, also that movie is just like way more directly a comedy. Like it just is a comedy.
Yeah, well, this is that's sort of I think something I enjoy about this film is it's got a touch of everything.
Yeah,
it's got the action.
It's
got
a very
the gags.
It's a very accessible, like fun action adventure movie with with some thrills and some chills and plenty of laughs and romance and lots of sexism this movie has.
Yes.
But I guess again
usually,
just the 90s.
It's the 90s, and I'm not saying this is for full forgiveness of the film, but like usually it comes from like bad characters who are sexist, where it's like implying
more than once when Rachel Weisz is trying to make her point to convince them to do something, Brendan Fraser just picks her up and carries her out of the room.
Yeah, that's not great.
More than that happens in the film multiple times.
That's not great. Well, I will say that I like
they joke about selling her for a camel.
Right.
Early in the movie.
Exactly. It's like she is not.
All right.
She is not taken.
I take everything back.
She is not taken seriously by the majority of the character.
But she is.
She's not taken seriously by any of the characters in this movie.
No.
We'll say that.
Yeah.
I think that she is my favorite character in the film, and I think and my favorite performance.
Sure.
But yeah, that is one of those things that also needs to be said.
Yeah, it's
just
such
like
a weird thing because like
she's not treated particularly well in this movie.
No, not at all. But like her character is like such an evolution from like 40s to 80s damsel characters that would be in action adventure movies. Like, and like the gag in the film, again, not justifying it, but like the gag in the film is that normally she's the character who's just screaming and running and having to be saved, but here, like, she's always right. She's always like whenever like she.
But here she knows things. She's still screaming and running and having to constantly be saved. But at least she can read ancient Egyptians and let the men know what the hieroglyphs say.
Yeah, and it's like compared to like Temple of Doom.
Sure.
Instance,
yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Like,
okay. No, I mean that's totally fair.
Yeah, like it is. It's not great, but it is.
It's a step in the right direction. It's a step in the right direction.
And I mean, ultimately, she's the one that saves the day in the end.
Of course. Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. She makes Imhotep mortal.
Yep.
And then Brendan Fraser doesn't stab him so much as Imhotep just kind of runs into the sword.
Yep.
Well, yeah, because he doesn't realize that he's still mortal.
Which is really weird.
Which is dumb. He
watched
should.
His soul get pulled out of his body.
Yeah,
and...
he does watch his soul get carried away by a CGI ghost chariot.
Oh, and... Dude, during the movie I said, that's some real animation.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's insane. And then after...
Very fun.
And I mean, we're at the end of the movie now, but, he's...
bouncing around so much.
Right after that, when he walks into Brendan Fraser's sword, he then gets sucked into the CGI goo pool.
Yeah, the death goo,
which is fun.
The pool of souls.
The pool of souls.
It looks bad. It looks terrible.
Well, especially his face like crumbling looks bad.
Yeah, going back through all of the distinct phases of him being like partially regenerated earlier. Mm-hmm. To jump back yet again, one of my favorite things that I think looks very goofy and kind of stupid with the CG in a way that I don't remember it being when I was a kid. But like the ghost looks like shit. That goes without saying.
The ghost without saying.
That goes without saying, yeah. But the first guy, he at once, you know, they read the Book of the Dead and reawaken Imhotep. Like the first guy that he, you know, gets in the tomb, he takes his eyes and his tongue only.
I love this
because he doesn't have time to suck the rest of him dry. Even though every other time in the movie Even though every other time in the movie that he sucks somebody dry, it's like a 2-second thing. It's just like, you know, and they're just sandy. Yeah, they're dry. Yeah. But this guy, he only, even though he had like several minutes alone with him, he only had time to get his eyes and his tongue.
It's anime. Time is...
Yeah, sure. You know. Whatever. So then for a long time, you have this very smooth, bad-looking CG mummy walking around that just has 2 big googly eyes.
I love it.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's the right word. It's
silly.
It's a choice. It's a decision.
It's very silly. It would definitely be scarier without the 2 eyes and the tongue. I find it to be very fun.
It's also just because the effects look bad, I think. I remember, you know, like being a kid and finding that whole thing like much creepier, just because those effects were good in 1999.
I'll tell you, there is
good-ish.
another ghoul creature that still has its eyes and tongue intact. That's otherwise largely mummified. That is pretty terrifying. And that's Tarman. The difference is Tarman is practical.
Yeah, Tarman's a guy in a suit.
Tarman is a guy in a suit and he's cool
wet.
and creepy.
Yeah.
Like, Tarman, I love, like, how Tarman just kind of has regular eyes, and the rest of him is all fucked, right?
Yeah.
That's really cool. And here, like, it's like a corny Tarman. Like, Tarman's already kind of corny, so, like, it's fun, but it's just kind of corny on corny, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's cute. It's not... Especially now, I don't think it's good or effective, but it's fun, I guess. The googly-eyed mummy.
I think on the other side of, you know, the coin, in terms of CGI that hasn't aged well, but I think works especially well in context, is like the climactic scene when all the priests, the mummified priests are around Rachel Weisz, and they're about to, you know, transfer her soul.
Yeah.
And Brendan Fraser gets the big sword and starts fighting all these priests. That's found fun. That to be very fun. Like there's a weirdly good eye for detail with that scene, because like he'll swing and like he'll catch one of the mummy's like cloths around them and like spin them around. He'll like slice another one in half. He'll like chop them by the legs. It's really well choreographed. Right.
The effects don't look particularly good. It is a live action guy swinging a sword at very like obviously computer generated like smooth mummies. But yes, it overcomes that in how well choreographed like the actual fight stuff is. Like when he's like fighting the one and the other one is like sneaking up behind him and he puts the sword back with both hands to chop the one in front of him and it stabs through the head of the one like behind him, and then when he swings it forward, like its head comes off and he's got his head sticking out the sword. Like that stuff is fun. The effect looks like shit, but like it's just such like a fun
or the big tombstone mummy.
Oh,
that's practical though.
That one's practical.
That one's like partially practical, because like some of those
there's such a blend.
Some of those like priest guys are like dudes in suits, and like that stuff is more fun. But yeah, where he's coming over with the big tombstone to like smash him on the head, and so he cuts the legs out from under him so the tombstone falls on the mummy's head.
There's like a wonderful reaction from the mummy too, where he's like, "Oh shit!" Like,
and it lands on the ground like his legs curl up, like.
Very
like
Looney Tunes.
Yeah, like where you kill a spider, like its legs curl. Yeah, it's very funny. And I will say, like, you also notice that the mummy's like eyes and mouths, like on the practical ones with the guys in suits, are like also removed.
Yes.
And there's like CG there.
That one's real obvious in the Anaxinamun mummy who's chasing Rachel Weisz around. Yeah, it's a person in a suit, a pretty good looking one too. But then the eyes and the inside of the mouth are CG to make it look like it's
vacant.
Yeah, it's hollow in there, and that doesn't look great.
No,
but
when did oh fuck, what's the name of it? Where they go to the asylum? What's the name of that movie?
You're gonna have to be way more specific, dog.
We did with Jan's on the Grave Encounters.
Oh yeah.
When did Grave Encounters come out?
2006,
really,
something like that.
Because Grave Encounters was kind of made famous because the slack jaw, scary,
the big mouth ghost.
Yeah. This movie's just full of big mouth monsters and the big jaw stretch.
Yeah,
true.
And it doesn't look good in this either. That effect has never looked good.
What I will say, it's obvious to everyone here, but I still like saying it, and that is that CG for the time was an insane amount of work.
Sure, absolutely,
just a baffling amount of labor
it looks,
and computation time and effort.
It only looks so bad now because of what where the technology has come and
since
then.
And we wouldn't be there if it wasn't for movies like this from that era.
Because when we were kids, those CG effects were effective. Where I will draw the line with that is the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson Scorpion King in Mummy Returns. That looked bad even back then. Yes. That has never looked good. No. It's crazy how bad that CG is. For how much of a budget that Mummy sequel had, I don't know how that happened. But of course that goes without saying. We didn't know back in 1999 that we would have Avatar: The Way of Water now, we didn't know that James Cameron 20 years later would be just continuing to set the paradigm that nobody has been able to match.
I'm glad you mentioned James Cameron because James Cameron. That legacy of effects in this film with The Abyss.
One of the few James Cameron movies I have not seen is The Abyss.
Oh fuck! Well,
banger. Great movie.
That's a pod film.
Oh yeah.
We can do The Abyss for the
We should do that at some point. Yeah, I need to see it. Yeah.
Great.
I love Jim Cameron. Man.
No, you should pick it. Stop giving me suggestions.
Pick your own damn. Stop giving Ben homework. Pick your own damn.
Right. But yeah, The Abyss really good. But anyway, The Abyss and T2 were the films that technologically progressed like that, like the liquid stuff. It really started with The Abyss, and then in T2, the metal,
sure.
Like Terminator. But you get a lot of that same style of effect in this movie with the sand tornado, the sand tornado stuff with the faces in it.
That looks goofy as hell.
The ghost when it comes in, it looks goofy as hell, but it's the same technology. It's very clearly the same liquid, CG liquid stuff that was. When it came out, a spectacle.
Jim Cameron has always been a trailblazer and continues to be.
ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, did all the effects for this movie, and of course they've gone on to do plenty of great,
Well, yeah, ILM has pretty much always been on the cutting edge, and back in 1999, this was the cutting edge, I guess.
Sure. There's one thing I really like at the very beginning of the film. Let's talk about matte paintings for a second. There's a lot of digitally composited shots in this movie. Frankly, the compositing almost across the board looks great. There's so pretty many shots where creatures fly behind stuff or move around, or there's some really wonderful composited skies.
The problem as usual with that kind of stuff is matching the lighting. Yeah. That's the actual
the biggest one is the first matte painting.
That first matte painting, and the one when they're in the desert and it's obviously on location in a desert, but the sky is composited.
I like that.
I mean, I like the sky. I don't think it really like it's one of the more obvious composites in the movie.
Obvious, but there's something kind of like that gives it because it's fake. It gives it kind of a fantasy element that
which is for sure what they were going for. Yeah, and like it is effective in that sense. Yeah, but
like, the kitsch is like kind of almost by design.
Honestly, I think across the board, the thing that is like most true with the digital effects is that like when there's not live action elements in the same frame, it all looks pretty good. It's just next to the live action stuff that it looks like shit. Like that sort of like opening thing where we see like however many thousand years ago, you know, in the prologue where we're seeing like this big like bustling Egyptian city that's like pretty much exclusively like digital effects. Like, you know, it's a number of like creatively composited things. Like we were all kind of like in that opening shot, we're like, wow, this looks kind of good, you know? We're like, yeah, this isn't bad, you know?
99? Hell yeah.
And then it's like, then you start seeing like the ghost and like the pool of souls and the fucking scarab beetles like interacting with real tangible live action things. It's like, that looks like crap. It's like, that fucking sucks.
Yeah. For me, it's one of those things where you can... being able to see the strings is very charming.
Yeah, and totally. I mean, I don't even feel like we need to spend so much time justifying it. It's a movie from 1999.
No, but it's fun to
it goes without saying.
I think we have. I think we've done some digging.
Do you have any other major points you want to hit, or is it about time for rating?
I think I'm ready to rate.
Well, we opened making so many jokes about his neck.
We didn't even talk about his extremely thick and powerful American neck. Oh my goodness!
Yeah, we gotta talk about that.
We have to talk about it. It's like such a minor thing in the movie, but like Rachel Weisz and John Hannah like find Brendan Fraser like in a prison in Cairo. He's been arrested for doing something or other, and John Hannah had like stolen the key and the map to the city like off of him, so they go to talk to him and be like, where did you get this, you know? And he's like, oh, I've been there. So they have to get him out of prison to you know, have him be their guide or whatever, but they're gonna hang him at the prison. They're in the process of hanging him, and Rachel Weisz has to haggle with the warden, but like while that's happening, Brendan Fraser's being, like, actively hung, and, you know, it's like a traditional gallows where the floor drops out from under him, which is, of course, designed to break the neck, not asphyxiate, you know, but because of his big, thick, powerful American neck, he does not break his neck on the fall. He's just dangling there, slowly asphyxiating while they haggle over the price of his release.
Do you think if you did enough neck exercises, you could like train your neck to be like that?
No. But it would be funny if you could. I would like to believe that is the thing.
I bet you couldn't hang the wide neck guy.
It would be hard. I mean, it just makes me think about going back to the well in Always Sunny, when Frank tries to hang himself, but he can't because his neck is too thick. Just like dangling from the ceiling. It's like, don't try to stop me.
All right, so I've got an article up right now titled "World's Strongest Neck."
Okay.
And it says, let's see.
Why is there a picture of me on there?
Oh my god, holy shit. Not at that. But, alright, so ever since his early days as a 14-year-old underground kung fu fighter in Foxborough, Massachusetts, in 1988, Mike Bruce has always been a competitor of strength. After being awarded the First Class Physical Fitness Award with the United States Marine Corps in '94, Bruce dedicated his life to physical fitness and physical fitness and feats of strength. Those combining the two, your physical fitness. Bruce recently set a world record by lifting 300 pounds with his neck from a seated position.
Holy shit.
300 pounds. With a muscular neck that measures 19 inches in circumference.
Whoa.
Holy shit. Bruce has many feats of strength that he displays with the bi-weekly Thunder Fighting Challenge.
Maybe that could prevent his neck from breaking
Yeah.
if he was on.
Well, I mean, okay, so I'm...
Because it's like, it's the weight of your body being put onto your neck with the drop that breaks your neck, right?
You could Mythbusters the fuck out of this.
So if he's capable,
if there ever was.
if he's capable of lifting 300 pounds with his neck, presuming the rest of his body doesn't weigh more than 300 pounds.
So, yeah.
But then you'd also have to consider the momentum that's
With
built up by the drop.
See, and the more powerful the neck, the heavier you are.
It would be more than 300 pounds from the energy from the drop.
I don't think they hang people on death row anymore, but I'm just imagining like a Rocky style montage of someone like training their neck.
Doing neck, yeah, just a 5-minute montage of doing neck exercises to get just the most neck exercises to just get like the thickest, most powerful neck.
I will say
they go to hang him, and he drops, and the rope just explodes.
So to find that information, I was searching there. I just put most powerful neck into Google. So
I'm surprised that did that return pornography
no, thankfully.
results at all?
I think on my phone I have safe search on. I don't know.
Coward.
I haven't had any cause to turn it off.
Coward.
Yo, wow, there's some Google. Hold on, actually, let's go to Google Images real quick. I know this is a verbal.
Is it just a collection of gentlemen with huge necks?
Yeah, man. Whoa, yeah, there's some necks.
Holy shit.
That's a neck.
For the people who are listening at home, what did you Google to get these results? Most powerful neck?
Yeah, most powerful neck.
All right.
Powerful. Whoa, yeah, this guy's got a powerful neck.
Wow.
Wow, what that?
This is great radio.
This is great radio.
This is really good radio. I feel like there's... I'm not a scientist, but I feel like there's sort of like a direct... What do you call it? Like an inverse correlation between neck width and brain size. And I think I think that the stronger your neck becomes, the beefier your body pulls that from your brain to add on to your neck. I just can't imagine a guy with like a huge neck who's also like smarter than a 4th grader.
I kind of fucked up a little bit. So I was more curious, so I typed in "Can you survive a hanging?" and I just got the helpline.
Oh, the suicide hotline?
Yeah, that was not what I was intending. Oh dear.
Oops.
Oopsie. Help is available, people you can trust. I just want to know. I just want the data on like historically if people have like survived.
Why don't we rate The Mummy?
Let's on that dour note.
Cleveland.
I'm so sorry.
Please start us off.
Call the helpline. Oh hell. Okay, so forgive, but there's a lot of bias here. And it's my rating.
You can rate it whatever you want, but I promise Ben and I are not going to make this a golden pod.
I don't want you to. I want you to give whatever you feel. Like, that's fine. But for me, this movie is, I was very pleasantly surprised by how it held up. And again, anything that is, like, has not held up in this movie, I found to be very charming. So, I don't have much I could fault this movie for. It is an utter joy. I would not put it on tier with, like, fucking, I don't know, Lawrence of Arabia or some shit.
Indiana Jones.
Well, I think I like this movie more than Temple of Doom. I need to rewatch Temple of Doom. I don't think I like it as much as Last Crusade, or the first, but, I mean, I certainly like it more than Crystal Skull.
Sure.
Low bar.
The lowest. Well, I guess not now. I haven't seen the new one, but, yeah, I don't know. I think, a strong 4.5.
Which one?
For the wonderful effect this movie had on me as a kid, I'm gonna give it a 4.5.
Okay.
I think it's great and it's a joy and it is not perfect. It's got lots of issues, but none of them are issues to me, and it's very charming.
Ben?
They sure don't make them like they used to. 3.5 out of 5.
Solid.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, Ben. It's going to be a 3.5 out of 5 for me. A lot of nostalgia involved in this one. Obviously, does have some problems, and certain things have not aged the best. But I do think that this is a bona fide late 90s, early aughts classic. I think that it is well loved and respected for good reason. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I do, to carry on the Indiana Jones thing, I do think that this movie is a very good successor to Indiana Jones. And certainly has not been outdone by that franchise's later entries, I don't think. I haven't seen the new one. Looks bad to me. Crystal Skull sucks, but
how does it hold up next to the what's the series called? The PlayStation Naughty Dog games. What are they?
Uncharted.
How does it hold up to that? Because I realize that Brendan Fraser's whole costume is basically Nathan Drake's in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, different mediums. You know,
from what I've seen of Nathan Drake's character, I don't think he's as charismatic as Brendan Fraser in this.
Yeah, I mean, he's not as quippy, I guess. I don't know. I mean, again, you spend much more time with Nathan Drake. You're spending hours each game. Like, it's... You spend more time with the character. Totally different mediums, you know. Those games are fun, though. They're good games. Anyway, The Mummy, 1999, 3.8 out of 5. If, for some reason you haven't seen it, I feel like everybody's seen this movie. But if you haven't, check it out. It's worth your time. It's fun. Next week it's Ben's pick. Ben, what are you doing to us or for us?
Yeah, well, I decided to continue the fun train.
Woo!
Rather than picking something dour, which I do have some in my back pocket for that.
Oh, great.
And we'll get to those eventually.
You don't have to.
But I want to keep the fun rolling, and I want to cover a movie I haven't seen, actually, in probably since high school, in 10 plus years. I recently watched the remake of it, and thought it was okay. But I'm excited about revisiting the classic 80s horror comedy Fright Night.
Oh, shit. Okay. Hell yeah. I haven't seen Fright Night since college.
I've never seen it.
Fright Night is
You're
fun.
in for a treat. It's a very fun
Doesn't
movie.
the remake have Colin Farrell in it?
Yeah.
I never saw that
It's
remake.
not bad. It's not good either. I don't know. We can talk about it next week.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sweet. That's exciting. Next week is Fright Night. Join us then. We'll do a quick sponsor. I think there's only one in there.
There's only one sponsor left on the shelf of sponsors. It must be an important one before the blood moon rises again and the ritual.
Yeah, a ritual will be done to restock the sponsor shelf.
The thing
at some point.
At some point. Yeah. So buckle up, bing bongs. We got a heck of a. A sponsor this week. Ladies and gentlemen, this episode was brought to you by a smart car, Truck Nuts.
Yeah. I bet they would drag on the ground.
Would that make it a Dragula?
Good question.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right.
Not our best sponsor, but not our worst.
Not our best, not our worst. There will be another one next week because, well, hopefully. We got to get paid.
Yeah.
Until then, if you like the show, pay us by giving us a 5-star rating on wherever you're listening to this. And you can also pay us for real money on patreon.com/podpeoplepod. Shout out to our honorary pod boys, Sam, Zach, Micah, and Mitchell. If you join the Patreon at the $5 or $10 level, you get into the Discord and you can talk with us about whatever, literally whatever. We'll talk about anything. You can also follow us on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/podpeoplepod, where you'll find a list of all the films we've talked about on the show with our average ratings and links to those reviews. I forgot to come up with another recommendation for something, so I'm a pass. What do you got, Ben?
Yeah, well, there's a show on HBO, I guess Max, that I think we've all watched.
Max, the place for HBO.
Yeah, it's just come to a series conclusion, but I would strongly recommend it, and that show is How To with John Wilson.
Oh yeah.
It's an incredible, strange docu-comedy, I guess you could say. Equal parts, observational essay and sight gag central.
Study, too.
Character study, exploration of American oddballs and New York City. It's a really hard show to explain succinctly. Yeah. All of the episodes start with really mundane topics, but go to really interesting and strange places.
My shout out this week is easy. It's I Doesn't Exist. Out now. It is our modern text-based adventure game that Dread XP has put out. It's a wonderful game to sit down with a cup of tea and experience an identity crisis, and I think that's what it's all about. I like that. So yeah, go check out I Doesn't Exist. The I is in brackets. It's a play on words. It's grammatically correct. Fuck off.
No. I did think of a recommendation last second because we're in Egypt mode. Listen to the band Nile.
Yeah.
The best technical death metal bands of all time, especially Annihilation of the Wicked is their best album.
You should play us out
also,
with a Nile song.
Also, Those Whom the Gods Detest. Good albums. Goodbye.